The government on Sunday filed the draft papers with the markets regulator Securities and Exchange Board of India for the Life Insurance Corporation's initial public offer, through which it hopes to sell 5% equity stake. The IPO issue is expected to be India's largest public issue and will hit the capital market in March. NDTV has learnt the government will be selling over 31 crore equity shares of LIC. This is according to the draft red herring prospectus filed with the markets regulator. And this listing comes against the backdrop of foreign investors pulling out funds from the domestic market, just as the government seeks to meet a sharply trimmed divestment target for the current financial year.
Well, the first part, of course, we do definitely know nearly 3 lakh odd shares will be disinvested. What the issue size is still not yet been disclosed, and hopefully in the coming days we'll be able to get an idea of that. But that's, of course, something that will be based on the valuation that has already been made. So you can make a rough calculation and then work things backwards. So they will definitely look at that market rate. Please remember that IPOs in the initial years were doing very well post-COVID, but now there is a sense of fatigue. There has been, of course, a lot of people who have been looking very carefully at LIC IPO and hoping that it will help revive the market and help the government meet its fiscal targets. There have been a lot of opinions about it, so we'll have to wait and see how it works out. But at this present juncture, that hasn't been disclosed by the government of India.
Meanwhile, satellite imagery of Russian deployments in Belarus, in Crimea and Western Russia show massive build-up of forces. Vishnu Som has the details.
Now, this is a map of Ukraine that you can see. As you can see, there is a brown area marked below, and that's the Donetsk area, which is under occupation by Russia-backed militants. And then there is the purple area, which is the Crimea, which has been annexed by Russia in 2014. Now, the pictures that we are going to actually show you, the first area there on your screen. So let's just bring up the image of this particular area that you see. These are the latest satellite images. It's from just a couple of days back. I believe this is from the 10th of the Rechitsa area. As you can see, a lot of armor over there by way of armored personnel carriers, perhaps some tanks as well. Essentially military equipment deployed over there, not too far from the northern border of the Ukraine. Let's now move to the second location that we are going to show you. It's again to the right of Rechitsa, to the top of your screen, very close by, and major airfield located over there. And again, as you can see, a lot of military equipment which is now positioned in that area. And if it moves further south, then there would be the presumption that a strike is imminent. This is at an airfield in that area, not too far from the first location we showed you. The third area we are showing you is actually in Kursk. That's to the right of your screen. That's within Russian territory. And the images that we bring you from Kursk via Maxar are these images of tents and housing for soldiers in this particular training area. And finally, we can bring you an image from down south of an area within Crimea, which we mentioned has been annexed by Russia. It's of an airbase, but within this airbase are new structures which have been created, as also the positioning of tanks which have been covered in white, and also armored personnel carriers and the like.
And let's get you all the big election stories at this hour. It has been more than 6 years since the villagers on the Kotkapura-Bhatinda highway came into the headlines over the sacrilege controversy. And now it's time for them to vote. Will the delivery of justice in the sacrilege cases be one of the key issues in the minds of voters in this district? NDTV's Mohammad Ghazali reports.
जो आम आदमी पार्टी है वो उभरी कहां से है? वो उभरी ही आरएसएस से है। आम आदमी पार्टी के नेता खुद कहते हैं कि हम भाजपा से बड़े भाजपा हैं।
With no success at winding up the sacrilege cases, a major issue in Punjab elections, the Congress's star campaigner lashing out at her opponents. At a public gathering in Kotkapura, there was no mention of sacrilege and killing of 2 people in police firing in 2015, with the Congress dismissing it as an issue.
लोगों के ज़हन में मुद्दा है नहीं। कई बार कोई ऑपोजिशन डालती है, जब कोर्ट ने, गवर्नमेंट ने, सरकार ने, पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट ने केस फाइनल करके कोर्ट में दे दिया, अब तो कोर्ट का मैटर है, कोर्ट ही इसका फैसला करेगी।
This even as the victims' relatives are sitting on a protest in Bhebel Kalan village for 58 days. In 2015, police had opened fire at peaceful protesters who were agitating against alleged sacrilege of Sri Guru Granth Sahib at main chowk of Kotkapura. Sukhraj's father, Krishna Bhagwan Singh, and Sadhu Singh's son were the two people killed in the police firing.
2015 से लेके आज तक पंजाब का या देश का एक मोदी को छोड़ के सभी लीडर यहाँ हैं, नेशनल लीडर, सिर्फ एक राजनीतिक मुद्दे को लेके, एक राजनीतिक वोट बैंक को लेके उनका यहाँ आना उन्होंने देखा और उनको न्याय से कोई नहीं है। पर हम इसमें ज़्यादा कसूरवार हैं क्योंकि जो गुरु साहब के नाम के ऊपर राजनीति करके एक साल सरकार चला चुके हैं, उनको दोबारा क्वेश्चन करने की बजाय आज तुम उनका साथ दे रहे हो।
Punjab's former chief minister and country's former president Gyani Zail Singh belonged to Sandhwan village in Kotkapura. We tried to find out what the main issues here are.
ਪਹਿਲਾ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਦਾ ਮਸਲਾ ਹੱਲ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਬੈਬਲ ਕਲਾਂ ਦਾ ਗੋਲੀ ਕਾਂਡ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਇਹ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, 7 ਇਅਰਸ ਹੋ ਗਏ।
ਸਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੋਟਕਪੁਰੇ ਦਾ ਵਿਕਾਸ ਹੋਣਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਵਿਕਾਸ ਅਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਕੋਈ ਵਿਕਾਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆਗਾ। ਸਾਡੇ इधर जैतो रोड ਤੇ चले जाओ, ਉੱਥੇ ਬਾਰਿਸ਼ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪਾਣੀ ਖੜਦਾ ਹੈ।
पहली बात तो बच्चों की पढ़ाई, ठीक है। उसके बाद ये विकास का शहर का, जब पानी बारिश आती है तो बिल्कुल इतना बुरा हो जाता है ना यहाँ पे कि आम आदमी कैसे जाएगा।
ਮੁੱਦਾ ਹੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਤਾਂ ਬੇਰੁਜ਼ਗਾਰੀ ਦਾ ਜੀ। ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਪੜ੍ਹੇ ਲਿਖੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪੁੱਛ-ਗਿੱਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਜੀ। ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਮਹੱਲੇ ਦੇ ਲਾਗੇ ਖੋਲ੍ਹਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਬੇਰੁਜ਼ਗਾਰ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ।
5 years ago, the previous government had promised development as well as justice in sacrilege cases to the people of Kotkapura Assembly constituency as well as Faridkot district. But today, when we speak to youths, they say that the new government should focus on eradicating drugs, creating job opportunities and also look for the development of the city. But there are many like Sukhraj Singh who still feel that if there is no justice, there is no peace. In Kotkapura, Mohammad Ghazali for NDTV.
And chief ministers of opposition-ruled states will soon be meeting in Delhi to discuss the constitutional overstepping and brazen misuse of power by governors, has said the Tamil Nadu chief minister. He just tweeted this a little while ago, a matter he says that was flagged by the Bengal chief minister Mamta Banerjee, who suggests the meeting. Let's go across to Sam Daniel for more on Mamta Banerjee dialing MK Stalin, proposing a meeting of non-BJP CMs. Sam, all of this, of course, coming on the heels of Mr. Stalin condemning the West Bengal governor's decision to prolong the ongoing session in the state's legislative assembly.
That's right. A day after that particular tweet, which was also in a sense responded by the West Bengal governor, saying he had done that only on the request of the chief minister there, Mamta Banerjee Sera. But interestingly, Stalin's tweet also comes in the context of the Tamil Nadu governor, who's being seen as the BJP government's appointee, who had rejected the NEET exemption bill unanimously passed early by the Tamil Nadu Assembly. And a few days ago, the Tamil Nadu Assembly once again had passed the which he had returned, doing that when it said governor of the state, he would what that president. And earlier, similar tug of war or tussle was also reported in Delhi between the chief minister Kejriwal and the governor, Lieutenant Governor there. And it's in this context Stalin says that DMK stands for the autonomy of states and it's committed to that. And interestingly, this also comes in the backdrop of Stalin recently launching a federation of backward classes, giving himself a kind of a national role to ensure social justice and benefits for the oppressed communities across the country. And once again, through this kind of a tweet, Stalin is trying to project himself as a national player, as a national leader, this time for the cause of the governor, what he calls in the context of overstepping or overreaching in certain aspects. Sarah.
Sam Daniel reporting from Chennai. Thanks for that. We'll of course be closely monitoring that meeting as and when it happens. Meanwhile, in a controversial remark, the Congress leader and the Karnataka MLA Zamir Ahmed has said that women get raped when they don't wear a hijab. And this remark comes, of course, amidst that hijab controversy with Muslim girl students in Karnataka protesting after they were not allowed to enter their colleges and were not being allowed to study wearing a face veil.
ये हिजाब क्या औरत बच्ची जो होती है, जो बड़ी होने के बाद जो है उनको गोशे पर्दे में रखते हैं, यानी उसकी खूबसूरती होती है, अब उसकी खूबसूरती दिखना नहीं चाहिए, उसकी खूबसूरती छुपाने के लिए वो रखा जाता है। आज आप देखे होंगे कि हिंदुस्तान के अंदर मेरे ख्याल से रेप रेट जो है वो सबसे हाईएस्ट हिंदुस्तान के अंदर है। वजह क्या है? ये गोशे पर्दे में नहीं होने की वजह से। और ये आज से नहीं है सिलसिला, ये है और कंपलसरी भी नहीं है, कंपलसरी पहनना करके नहीं है। जिसको पहनना है, जिसको हिफाजत कर लेना है, जिसको उसको खूबसूरतता की दूसरे को नहीं दिखाना है, वो लोग हिजाब पहनते हैं। ऐसा नहीं कि कंपलसरी हिजाब पहनना करके, और ये आज से नहीं है, बरसों से है।
Maybe it's the men who should be covering their eyes. Meanwhile, the India Inc. bid farewell to the founder of Bajaj Auto and a pioneer of innovation, Rahul Bajaj, synonymous with the famous tagline Hamara Bajaj. Padma awardee Rahul Bajaj passed away in Pune at the age of 83 on Saturday. He was awarded a state funeral on Sunday.
In the 6 decades since he took over the family business in 1965, Rahul Bajaj emerged as a business colossus and a rare outspoken voice in corporate India. The legacy he inherited played a role. His grandfather, Jamnalal Bajaj, was not just an industrial pioneer, but also a fearless champion of the freedom movement, closely associated with Mahatma Gandhi, something Rahul Bajaj has spoken of more than once.
Much more credit goes to the legacy we have inherited. The legacy they left, legacy the grandfather left, there's no financial wealth left. There were one or two small naam ke vaste companies, but the legacy of goodwill that he left was worth much more than billions.
Under his watch, the Pune-based company exploded. Hamara Bajaj, as it was known, made millions of middle-class households mobile, pushing it to India's biggest selling scooter. Today, the Bajaj Group, with interests in auto, finance, energy, steel, home appliances and sugar, is worth 8.6 lakh crores. In 2005, Bajaj stopped producing its iconic, much-loved Chetak scooter, switching to motorbikes. In an interview with his son, Rajiv, who took over the reins of the company in 2005, he spoke of the difficulty of that decision.
Emotional connect clearly says do not stop, do something to keep it on. I'm not really convinced. He's tried to explain it to me quite often and he gets tired of explaining it to me. But I'm not convinced that is the right solution. But as I understand him to say, I have to concentrate on motorcycles today. I want to focus on that today. And who knows tomorrow? We may come back with a bang. But yes, we have had discussions, we have had disagreements.
But Rahul Bajaj, elected to the Rajya Sabha in 2006, would stay in the headlines as a fierce government critic across party lines.
भारत के संविधान के प्रति श्रद्धा और निष्ठा रखूंगा। मैं भारत की प्रभुता और अखंडता अक्षुण्ण रखूंगा तथा जिस पद को मैं ग्रहण करने वाला हूं उसके कर्तव्यों का श्रद्धापूर्वक निर्वहन करूंगा।
He told NDTV of how he stood up to Indira Gandhi after she split the party in 1969, when his father, a Congress MP, stayed with the rival faction.
So it was in 69 when, in her own interest, Indira ji split the Congress, and my father was a 3-term member of Lok Sabha from my home constituency, Wardha.
Right.
Lok Sabha, Wardha. Right. She stayed put with Congo, with Morarji Desai. Right. And Indira ji got very angry. She said, how can Kamal and they were in Ville Parle in Bombay in a school together. In UK he was in Cambridge, she was in Oxford. I mean, they were also similar ages, I don't know. Right. I think you know the story of the name and all that. Right. So naturally she understood, but he had called me that time. We can get into trouble. Should I resign as chairman of all the companies? No, the company can be nationalized. Banks are nationalized. Coal mines are nationalized. क्या बोल रहे हैं आप? होनी चाहिए nationalized. डर के काम करेंगे? जमुनालाल का ग्रैंडसन, कमलनाथ का लड़का क्या डर के काम करेंगे? हाथ जोड़ के बात करेंगे सबसे, पर डरेंगे नहीं किसी से.
During the Modi government, Rahul Bajaj kept up his reputation of speaking truth to power. In 2019, at an Economic Times event, he questioned Amit Shah on a range of issues, from the rise of lynching incidents and no action on perpetrators to what he called an environment of fear. In his speech, he said, "Nobody from our industrialist friends will speak. An environment will have to be created. In UPA 2, we could abuse anyone. You are doing good work, but despite that, we don't have the confidence that you will appreciate if we criticize openly." It is this quality that was noted in messages from across party lines and from his business peers. Harsh Goenka said the spine of Indian business has cracked. Uday Kotak said Rahul Bajaj was bold and fearless, a rare businessman who spoke truth to power. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw said she was devastated, that he was a dear friend and the country has lost a great son and nation builder. The Prime Minister said Rahul Bajaj will be remembered for his noteworthy contribution to the world of commerce and industry. Beyond business, he was passionate about community service and was a great conversationalist. Rahul Gandhi said Rahul Bajaj's passing is a big loss to India, that we have lost a visionary whose courage made us proud. With Sakshi Bajaj, Meher Pandey for NDTV.
We're going to go in for a short break, but we have more coming up when finally the IPL Season 15 auction ends.